We're live, girl. Yeah. Like that. I don't know if you can hear it, but yeah. It says I'm having trouble pulling to LinkedIn, maybe on LinkedIn. Music starts, it gets better. Especially at 7. We need some music. Well, hello there. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm Michelle Gardner-Ince, host of Demystifying Government Contracting. Every Wednesday, I am here with special guests, with experts, all for the purpose of demystifying government contracting. So I want to make sure LinkedIn, can you hear me? If you can hear me, I'm going to type welcome in the chat. Let's see. It still says there's problems on LinkedIn. So let's try again. I'm going to remove it. Thank you for joining us, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. Let's try this again. We're going to add LinkedIn back. Oh, there we go. It says we are live. I just got a notification. So welcome. I am Michelle Gardner-Ince, aka GI, a host of Demystifying Government Contracting. I want to just tell you that, first of all, I'm so honored to have a special guest. Wave to everybody. Liseth, I will introduce you further. Let's get a little bit of administrative remarks out of the way. A lot of folks have been really excited about our special guest tonight. So with that, I do want to just say that, first of all, Demystifying Government Contracting is over a year old, almost 18 months old. It started in February of 2021. And it all started because of the executive order 13985 and the fact that the year before I was awarded, it was 2022, please forgive me. I was awarded the LinkedIn top voice for the military community as a beta tester. And I said, well, I can't have this privilege without sharing it and leveraging it for the small business community. And that's how it got started. But first of all, I want to get a few other administrative remarks out of the way. One, I am a federal employee of the Department of Veteran Affairs, 9 to 5. I do want to give a disclaimer that anything that you hear on this podcast, on this session, is my opinion and the views of the people that are guests or even may make comments, right? It is not the opinion of the Department of Veteran Affairs or any other federal agency. Second of all, I'm not going to be sharing any top secrets. Everything that we talk about here today is public knowledge, but what we will be adding is context to the information. And if you know, you've heard me before, I say, if you don't understand the context, you're conned out of the true meaning of the text. And so, demystifying government contract is all about bringing context to all of this information about the greatest opportunity in U.S. history for underserved communities and CEOs to leverage federal contracting as a way to grow their legacy, wealth, and improve their economic opportunities. So you do know that I'm an Air Force veteran, 27 years. spent most of my life taking care of military members, veterans, and their families. Well, it's no surprise that I've got an Air Force and Army veteran. She served in both with us this afternoon. Let me just go to comment. I do want to say, if you can hear us on LinkedIn, would you and Facebook, would you please put in some comments in the chat so that we know that you are there. Um, Second of all, I do want to say that, I have been an admirer and just fell in love with Lisette, CEO of LJV Development, from the first time we met. It's been almost 2 years that we were together as part of the Pentagon Federal Foundation um, government contracting. Somebody says go Lisette. All right, so we do have comments. Thank you so much for that, Gabriel. Loud and clear. Really appreciate it. You got comments. You want to hype up. You want to echo the things that we're talking about. Feel free to put them in the comments. But I fell in love with her. She was a superstar amongst almost 80 women who were in that cohort. And then she was brave. Let me tell you, she was very brave. As someone who was maybe a little junior compared to other businesses, she volunteered, raised her hand, and said, I am going to do all of the exercises and the challenges that went with the program. She posted on LinkedIn, Facebook. She pitched, and guess what? When she pitched, she was one of the top 3 winners of the pitch contest and received a grant from PenFed Foundation, and she's been running ever since. But I'm going to stop and let Lisette, welcome you, Lisette, and say I'm so honored. You are a beacon of light, not only to women veterans, but to Hispanic veterans who are in the entrepreneurial space, especially the government contracting space. And thank you for joining us. And tell us a little bit about, after you greet everybody, tell us a little bit about just how because you came to this country. You were not originally born in this country. So tell us a little bit about that, then how you came to be in service to this country, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, GI, so much. I cannot believe how time flies. I'm the founder and CEO of LJV Development, and we are a construction management company. We're based out of Everett, Massachusetts, primarily focusing around the federal contracting space, as well as the commercial space. We do anything from fit-ups to build-outs, to renovations, restorations, things of that matter. So I am super excited to be here. As you alluded, Michelle, I was not born in this country, and I would say that not being born in this country actually has paved a lot of, who is LJV, who is Lisette, and what we stand for. As you can imagine, coming from Colombia, it's a country where it's very uncertain, a little chaotic. And so I pretty much made like my life journey to bring more certainty and bring more order and bring more processes. And so, with the experience from being in the Civil Engineering Squadron and the Air Force, together with just life experience is really what helped evolve who LJV is now.
Well, so you came to the U.S. from Colombia. How old were you? Were you already an adult or what?
No, I was 7 years old, and I like to think that the first thing that I started constructing was language, because I had to learn English from the get. I worked with a speech therapist actually for the first few years just to get even the pronunciation. When I came to this country, I was super excited for the opportunities. I was super excited for just a world of access, right? And that's what America really represented to me from Colombia as I was looking to come here with my family. And it really was those like struggles or challenges that really helped me, made me who I am, and it essentially helped me be stronger. It helped me, when I was through basic training, it was fine. All the yelling, all that stuff. To me, it was, if anything, it was just empowering me. It was igniting me to find who I really wanted to be.
So you said basic training, and as a veteran of the Army and the Air Force, which basic training did you go to first, and did you have to go through twice?
Only once, and I did Army. I was Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and I joined as a truck driver. So because I wasn't a citizen, I actually had to go into the Army first. And they were basically like, look, you have three options. You have three jobs that you can choose from, because we can't really give you a security clearance without a citizenship. And they were personnel, cook, or truck driver. And I remember talking to a friend at the time, and it was like, look, you got to just be a truck driver. If you're in the wheel, you have more freedom, you can see more things. And so that was the how I dipped my toes into the military. But essentially, I just wanted to serve. For me, it really didn't matter what I did. I would have chose any job as long as they took me, essentially, at that time.
Yeah. So you said you just wanted to serve. Where did that come from?
I've done a lot of digging with that question. I think that it comes from just nurturing and wanting to see things better. I'm an only girl and four boys, and I come from a culture where, gender roles are a thing. And so it was kind of like I was taught to be a nurturer. I was taught to, as a woman, this is what you do. And it kind of just resonated with me. I have a young brother who, kind of helped raised. And so at the time I wasn't really thinking about all that. But I think as I was just going through personal experiences, it all just started really making sense. And I would say that, being like this mapper investigator and just, coming from Colombia and, being in the States, schools here, it was almost like as a young child, I had a puzzle and I had to just put things together. And I was kind of like just doing it as I went. And I was essentially getting better at it as I grew older.
Somebody was asking me, one of your fans was asking me, how did they get in? And I said,
Through a plane.
It's on the LinkedIn. It's on the LinkedIn profile for those of you who may be joining. If you've never joined a LinkedIn Live event, it should be on my profile. Can someone, Deanne, thank you for joining. Gabriel, thank you for joining. Can you tell me, is it live on the LinkedIn profile? Is that how you're joining? Because I know you're not on our side. It's just Lisette and I. Would you please respond? Let me see. I'm looking. It looks like we're live. It's showing. Uh, um, Thank you, Tara and Emmanuel. I'm looking at comments. People are on live with us. Thank you for joining. So, Lisette, so we talked about why you served, how you came to this country. From Colombia. But how did you get from truck driver and you mentioned gender roles, which I think is very a big deal now. Male energy, female energy, and you said you're a nurturer. But how did you get from being an Army truck driver over to Air Force civil engineering?
Well, Air Force was always my first love. I was JROTC Air Force High School, and Air Force was just my first love. It just happened that when I was getting ready to join, it was just harder to join the Air Force at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Quite frankly, my recruiter just didn't want to do the work because I could have joined with a green card. Knowing what I know now, he kind of just said, this is too much paperwork. Let me not go that route. And so that's why I ended up joining the Army first. And, look, the Army has taught me so many things, being a soldier first, attention to detail, all those things that, this is the Army's mission. but really, again, my love was always with the Air Force. So at a drill weekend, we were, for those that are local, we were in Fort Devens on a shoot and drill, 99 degrees out, very, very, very hot. And there was a command sergeant major going around with a ruler, and she was just looking to see whose insignias was the right, position. And, I'm a very make sense kind of person. And, look, I respect chain of command and all that stuff, but there was a few things that just didn't make sense. And so I still wanted to serve. I still wanted to be in the military, and I just knew that the Air Force was it for me. So I called the recruiter right after that drill weekend, because I was just like, okay, I can't. I got to see if I can switch over. And I ended up getting a conditional release out of the Army to switch over to the Air Force, and it was pretty much how things were set on stone. And because I did Army basic training, I didn't have to do basic training again. I ended up going to HVAC school as a mechanical, technician in Lackland. And it was great because I was prior service. And as you can imagine, being a soldier and just, having to eat MREs and being in a cot to sleep, and then joining the Air Force, and then they put you in a hotel, and then you have like somebody coming in. I was like, okay, this is nice. This is more my speed. And with the when I was transitioning over to the Air Force, one of the things that I told my recruiter, I was like, okay, I need like three things. I need a long tech school, because at the time I was 20 years old. I didn't really have a full-time job. I was in between, restaurant, like as a waitress, just trying to make ends meet however I could. And so I said, I need a really long tech school, because I can basically capture a good amount of just full-time work during that time. And because I joined in 2011, and of course I saw 9/11, and even though I wasn't born here, I love this country so much, and just being part of a deployment mission was super important for me. So I told him, I said, it needs to be a job that's highly deployable. I can't, I need to go overseas. And then the third thing is, like, if there's a bonus in there, I'll take it. So I did get 2 out of the 3. I didn't get the bonus, but I got a really great test school, and I ended up getting my associate degree from the Community College of the Air Force in mechanical engineering. I would say it was the first, because of the Air Force, it was kind of the first time that I was even acquainted with STEM, and the electrical, and in that kind of area. And so, to me, it was like, I was never thinking of like engineering or anything like that. But I think especially as I get older, it's like I love that engineering type mindset. I love the analytics. I love all that. So it just made sense.
So let's move kind of. How long did you serve total between the Army and the Air Force?
Almost 8 years. It was like a year and 8 months with the Army, and 6 years with the Air Force. I did my 6 year term, and I
And
thought
what
I was
made
going to
you
retire.
transition? And what made you transition?
Uh, I'm not gonna get too deep into it, but it was really my last deployment. It was just time. It was time,
Yeah.
and I think veterans know when it's their time to transition. It was definitely earlier. I was asked to share a failure or a struggle, and actually that was a major failure for me personally, because I thought that I was always going to retire. Like, the one thing that I knew that was like certain in life, as a 10-year-old child, was I'm gonna join the military, and I'm gonna serve, and I'm gonna retire, and that's it. Well, of course, life happens, things happen, and things actually don't go that way. So to me, just kind of taking that decision to not re-enlist, and and having just going full-time civilian world, that was one of those pivotal points where, if anything, I kind of felt like I was failing, because I wasn't like proceeding with it. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I was like, I knew I had to do it. So essentially, I went ahead and made that decision, and I just decided to be a civilian full time.
And most of, between truck driver and then civil engineering, you were in mostly male dominated fields, right? And then you come forward to the type of business you chose to be in is mostly male dominated. There are not a lot of women in construction. How would you say um, the military, or already having been one of five with four brothers, right? And you're the only girl, and then going into truck driving, and then going into civil engineering, which is male dominated, drove your decision?
I'll tell you what, like not at any point did I actually even think about that fact. Even being in the civil engineering squadron, and there was probably like 100 personnel with, I think, well, I personally been the only female to ever serve in the HVAC shop that I was in till this day. And there was probably an electrician and maybe two other females. So the ratio is definitely lopsided. But I never thought about it, Gia. I was never in the unit, and I'm like, I'm the only girl here. I think that it was one of those things where I ended up in that position because the job met what I was asking the recruiter at the time. And because I grew up around that male energy, I grew up around having to like navigate the differences. My mom she'll probably kill me for saying this live, but we fought a lot because I was like, why can't I be like the boys? Why can't I, get the keys to the apartment and come home whenever I feel like it? And there was just so many like, why? And she just she basically was like, look, it's just the way it is. And females and males are very different. And I think as I just got older and I started, just having more life experience, it's like, yeah, you know what? We are very different, and that's okay. And I think that, we both have these strengths that, if anything, where when it comes to male dominated industries, the issue is that there needs to be more female energy. That is the main issue. So, I think that there's a lot of opportunity, if anything, for things to be done differently in these industries that are specifically super male dominated, because once you start to integrate some of those females, you're going to see a shift in culture. You're going to see a shift in how things are done. And that's what brings more of that, diversity and evolution and just different ways of thinking.
So, hey, thanks for joining Cynthia, Lucretia, um, Deanne, Gabriel, and Alexandria, and others that I may have missed. Really appreciate it. Share this with your network. We've been spending about 20 minutes with Lisette, and we are not done yet. I do want to talk to you about, the challenges of starting a business. So you decided not to, reenlist in the Air Force. And what made you decide to go into business, and then specifically construction?
Yeah, so I started LJV April 2018 while I was still in the military. At Since a young age, I've just been like an investor, love real estate. At the time, I think I was in like my third or fourth property that I was either renovating or doing something with it. The name LJV Development came out of the idea that essentially I wanted to do development work. That's the world that I knew. I had no idea the federal contracting even existed, even though I was part of the civil engineering squad. I mean, I knew federal contracting existed. I knew there was civilians doing, like, I knew there was contractors. I didn't know the intricacies of it. And I just started, so at the same time, because I was in the National Guard, I was with a liquor distributor. So I spent a lot of my 20s in brand marketing and getting products out to the market, just dealing with clients and all that stuff. And so, I knew that it was really important for me to develop a brand, essentially, right? And almost like what people need to understand is that a business is kind of like this. It's like a baby. It's a living, breathing. It's not, you can't touch it essentially, but it really is like you have to nurture it. So that's the one thing I kind of knew. So I kind of started from there, and I ended up buying a property. A contractor told me it was going to cost X, it really cost times 10x. And I basically found myself in the middle of a construction site without having a budget to finish the project. And
Oh my.
essentially, the only thing I was left over was just with what I knew from the Air Force. And one of the things that the civil engineering prime beef, who were the best, you can put you can get us anywhere. We can do construction pretty much all over the world. So essentially, is like I knew that I needed to find the right people and the right trades to get the project done. So I ended up just hiring the plumber myself, the mechanical myself, and through the process, I was like, wow, I really, really, really like this. I like this. This is actually what I'm meant to do and meant to be. And at the same time, because I was transitioning out of the military, I was obviously in touch with Yellow Ribbon and, it was Boots to Small Business. And it was also around the period of a deployment. So, when you get out of deployment, there's also a lot more just information and resources. And then I was like, okay, well, hold on. There is some resource. There's some information here. And around, I want to say, I started a company in April, and I think by October, we had transitioned into more of a construction company. And I'm like,
Right.
construction management is what I want to do. And not to say that I would never do development. I would love to do development, but to do development, you either need to have very, very deep pockets or big, big network. And so one day
Well,
we'll get
I
there.
believe you have it. It's coming, lady. Um, so let's talk more about what, in those early days, what kept you going? Because, a lot of people come into government contracting, they're like, oh, there's all this money. There's all this money. And I don't operate in lack. I believe there's money for everybody.
Yeah.
But I don't believe everybody's searching in the right space for their money. They see money like, all this billions of dollars. The US government is the largest buyer in goods of services, but you're over searching somewhere where they don't have your money. The way they buy is not that the money's not there. The money's just not for you, because you're not in the right room, or you don't know the right people, or you don't understand the mission. So how did you figure that out? I mean, I like, because you're killing it, girl.
I think the fact that there was a chance, the fact that there was even like a chance for something to happen was what kept me going. And honestly, if you're a veteran, this transitioning is not the easiest or the best thing in the world. I took it. It was almost like LGV was like my therapy. That's where I put all of my energy in. That's where I put all of my efforts in, and I kind of just went in one direction. And like going back to my childhood, it's like when you're, at least when I was a child, that's no longer the case. But when you're in the 90s in Colombia as a woman, there's not a lot of options. There's not a lot of like opportunity, at least not any that you can see right away. And so just a main point, like just the SBA saying that there was a chance for me to, you know, have this opportunity to build a business and actually and create wealth and especially as an immigrant, reaching some of that financial freedom, it was like, well, I have to at least try. What's the worst that can happen if I don't try?
So when um, you know, so basically, as I think about it, you were uh, doing exactly what entrepreneurship is supposed to do, right? It gives you your own definition, your opportunity to define, or you have your own definition of what success looks like. You get to determine your own value. So let's just dream for a minute with you publicly. Congratulations on being, getting your 8A certification, your woman certification, your veteran certification. Do you all have hubs on yet?
No.
Okay, that's coming. Just wait on it, ladies and gentlemen. Wait on it.
No.
You know, it's 5 years from now. Where is LJV?
Oh, I love that question because you know what? I'm a planner. That's what everybody needs to know in this call. I like to look at 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. One of the main reasons, well, one of the things that I started seeing as I was transitioning is how much bad federal contractors affected the mission and affected the, boots in the ground, just buildings not being built. And so I was like, there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way to build. We've been building since the pyramids. Like, why is this so difficult? We can talk about why it's so difficult later, but essentially, where I would love to see LJV is really be that magnet where people understand that through communication and good collaboration, a lot of things we can do a lot of things. And so I definitely want us to be that leader in that space and really promoting that because like you just said, there's so much out there, and essentially there's so much more that we have to build, which is the main issue. And we spend so much time fighting and a lot of just BS in the middle that we are losing track of what's important. And what's important is actually building some of these spaces for people to use, for them to go to work, for them to go to sleep, for them to live a good life. And going back to my childhood, I come from spaces that are not that great. So, I've seen and I've actually experienced what a difference it makes for you to be in a space that actually helps you evolve as a person. Like, it's so important for you to breathe fresh air. Like these little things that we don't even, sometimes think about. I've heard stories of people living in a 50 unit building and the elevator doesn't work. Well, imagine being a single mother and you're trying to get your kids to school and you have to go back and forth. Like that's all added, just stuff that life is already so complicated. So I would, I'm not trying to save the world, but I would love to just see construction really change the culture, change the way we do things. We are big on technology, so we are implementing a lot of just machine learning. We're trying to, we're a small business, so we really see an opportunity in using some of these technology to have some competitive advantage and have some leverage over some of our competitors. So to answer your question, I would love to be a super tech enabled community connector type construction management company.
And building tomorrow today. That's your that's your tagline as well, right? Are you brave enough to put out in the universe a number?
What do you mean number?
What revenue number? What's your number? 5 years from now, what's your revenue number, lady? I'm putting you on the spot on this one.
Revenue number.
I believe.
I want to see a small business. So, our goal is to.
Your goal is to stay a small business.
Well, in the next 9 years, yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I don't want to graduate early out of the 8A program.
Yeah.
But, essentially, I want to maximize this opportunity, right? I want to maximize that, our next code is 236220. Now, right now, that's $49.5 million a year. And if I'm doing $49.5 million a year and a 5-year average, that's where I want to be.
So 239-236220.
236220. That's our primary next code.
236. I'm gonna put the code. I'm putting 236
220.
220. Okay, that's your NAICS. Okay, and LJV, and the max to remain within the 8A confines, or stay in that box, is how much?
Currently it's 49.5 million.
49.5 million. Okay, we are believing that you're going to get there, as well as the employees, right? I know with some contracts it also has to do with what's your how many
the employees, yes,
you have as well, right? Well, we're right now, you heard it right now, it's 7:34 on Wednesday, September 27th, that LJV is going to reach $49.5 million. True story. Today, I spoke to a young lady because a lot of times I mentor people, and then I just move on because they don't need me anymore. But today, somebody reached out to me about a cousin of theirs who lives in public housing in Philadelphia where there is mold, there is horrible conditions, and it sounds like they could use LJV to HUD could bring LJV in for a contract opportunity, right, to fix it. And I called a lady who I helped some 25 years ago because I was pregnant with my son, who was a welfare to work employee that came to work for me at the Air Force as a GS2. She's now a GS13. She lived in those slum conditions. And to quickly tell her story, she got hired after the summer with us at a very highly um, regulated and security organization, top secret clearance, and she's now a GS13. And I was intrigued because this woman had a great attitude. She had 6 kids. She was the same age as me, and I was having my second, and she had 6. So she was an inspiration. But I'm mentioning that because I think you have a client there in HUD, Philadelphia Housing. Just I look for opportunity everywhere. People that know me know if there's problems somewhere, there's opportunity. If there's construction going on or movement or activity, there's opportunity, right? And
Yes.
and your heart, the way you talked about the single parents, and she was single. The lady that I'm asking her to mentor, some 20 something years later, because she got a Habitat for Humanity house, so she's no longer in the slumlords, slum areas. But I asked her to mentor her. She's single with 3 kids, and so I say that to say I saw your eyes light up when you talked about helping single mothers who are just trying to get their kids to school. That's not by accident. My story of what I just heard and you saying that, the light in your eyes, what a great mission and a great opportunity. So let's look at HUD as a potential client. I'm just saying, maybe.
Hey,
Might
we're
be.
building affordable housing right now, so yes, definitely.
Yes, love it, love it. So we are at 7:38. Do you all have any questions out here? I do want to talk to you about 2 things. We kind of talked about it earlier about in the midst of construction, even right, but also constructing your business. How did you remain focused, not distracted, and not looking at, well, this other company has been in business 3 years and they're getting more than I am. So before I do that, Lindsay, Dion, Gabriel, Emmanuel, Linda Gray, Lori, Deanne, Cynthia, I wanted to ask Emmanuel, do you all have any questions for Lisette before I go into this next
Gee, I
section?
think there's a question in the chat from
Oh, somebody put a question in chat. Let me
yes,
see.
it's regarding collaboration. So hard to do.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't see that, but go ahead. So answer that.
Look, we're dealing with people. We're dealing with people.
Mhm.
People are complicated. So yes, it's hard to do. And I think that one of the things that we oversee is that I like to think common sense, right? But it's not common, right? It's not common sense to everyone. And one of the early lessons I learned from an Air Force commander actually is that perception is somebody's reality. So if you're dealing with people and you're dealing with all these regulatory arms and all these different facets of people, you got to take that into accountability. So sometimes, yeah, collaboration is not the easiest. So you got to find a way to, carve through that.
Yeah, and speaking of collaboration, I really believe um, that we as veteran-owned businesses, we as women, veteran-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, have so much opportunity to collaborate. You and I talked about it earlier this year when we were at the IVMF event about how veteran organizations, across the board can leverage and collaborate for the success of all. Do you want to share some of those ideas?
Yeah, I talk a lot about collaboration from a joint venture, mentor protege way to the trade partner collaboration, and actually getting them into some of these construction job sites. One of the biggest challenges has been the JV mentor protege collaboration. Oftentimes the large businesses, they're very bureaucratic. There's a lot of layers, and as a small business, you really don't have a lot of time, nor resources, nor just resources. So I think one of the challenges that we've especially faced is just having people understand, right? What is the mentor protege agreement? And the mentor protege agreement, there's like 6 of them that you can sign up for, and all this stuff takes time, and it takes a lot of it takes both people to be willing. And so I think that that's been the hardest thing, to get everybody on board. And of course, I'm a sole owner, so decisions start and kind of end with me. So for me, it's easier to say, okay, yes, we're gonna, shake the hand. Where you're working with a larger business, they have to go through a little bit of more loops and holes. And then when it comes to, the collaboration on the subcontractor side, we're dealing with, labor shortage is an issue. Having skilled laborers is an issue. And so how do you map, how do you bring in a trade that is appropriate for this job site, for the size of it, for the location, for the availability? So there's a lot of variables that you really have to take into account when it comes to construction, and thinking about these partnerships. And I think that for me, partnerships is kind of like whole faceted. I'm talking about clients and subcontractors right now, but the way I see it is, my external resources, like my bill team, my bankers, my accountants, my insurance, my lawyers, my attorneys actually here. Hi, Lindsay, I love you. Uh, but everyone that kind of makes an organization work, and your employees, your consultants, your mentors, like these are all partnerships. These are all relationships that essentially, it takes the whole thing. And I think a lot of people don't realize, and then they kind of see one thing, and then they're like, okay, I got this one taken care of, but then they didn't think about the other 5 things that they might have missed.
Gabriel, so what advice would you give someone who wants to break into government contracting? And I specifically want to put a tweak on this question, because it's not hard to get into government contracting. It's hard to get business, right? And that business is based on relationships. And you seem to be a master at that. Not seem, you are a master at building relationships, whether it's through your bunker labs, whether it's through IVMF, whether it's through GovCon Giants, all the, even SBA in Massachusetts. What are 3 things that you would say after people have done all the things they need to do to set up their business, they've identified their client? What would you say are the things that they could do? 3 or more.
3 or more. The first thing I would do is pick up a book, start with the why. Find your why. Find what makes you tick and why are you doing it, and really look at what is your current situation. I personally don't have children. I don't really have a lot of I have a lot of responsibilities, but I don't have any of those type of responsibilities. So for me, at the age that I started my business when I was 27. It was for me, it was like, okay, I can take this risk, because when you're going into business, you're essentially you're taking a lot of risk, right? Either you're going to be funded through, you're going to be self-funded, or your friends and family are going to help you, or you're going to go to a bank, or you're going to go to a VC. There's really only a few options. And so I would say start with the why. Find your purpose. Find what makes you tick, because the money, the revenue, and that's why I really it, honestly, revenue doesn't even matter as long as I can wake up every day doing what I love to do and going to sleep like a baby at night. Like that's what I strive for, essentially, to live a good life and a well balanced life. After you do that and you find your why, do the work. You gotta, don't skip the business plan. Don't skip the growth plan. Don't skip those financial sessions. Don't skip going to those 7J classes if you're gonna look into federal contracting. You really have to, I personally went through like 30 plus programs in the last 3-4 years, just trying to educate myself. One of the things that my mom taught me early on is like nobody can steal knowledge from you. Nobody can take that away from you. So educate yourself. Make sure you don't just take this person's word for it. You go and you research the FAR clause, or you research, or you talk to your attorney, or you talk to someone who's a subject matter expert in that field. And then the last thing is, and I got this from Larry Broughton. He's a Green Beret. Some of you guys may know him. And, he calls it the honeypot effect. And especially started a business from scratch and all that stuff, is there's a lot of shiny objects. Being a certified woman veteran, we get calls about opportunities all the time. And essentially, at the beginning, we were working on these opportunities and nothing was really maturing to anything. And, and there's a lot, I call them the shiny object effect. So as soon as you know your why, then you can start to create that honeypot effect, which means that you start to bring people to you, right? You start to essentially, educate and show people what is it that you're doing. And you'll be surprised how many people actually want to help, how many people have resources for you, how many people are open to giving you this guide. But GI, one of the things that I've seen entrepreneurs not do all the time is just be vulnerable, ask questions, join the session. Their ego is so in the way that they're like, or, that they're too, no, it's like, what is the worst thing that could happen for this person who doesn't answer you or something? So I would say those three things are really important.
So find your why, do the work, and educate yourself.
And build a honeypot effect.
And build the honeypot. Keep going, somebody said. Yeah. Do you have one or two more?
Keep going. Leadership is extremely important in this type of and I think in any industry. We're dealing with people again, right? And one of the things the military does really well is help us understand that we're all very different people and we all have very different strengths and weaknesses. And so if you are in the process of putting together a team, definitely look at what are those soft skills, what are those skills that you're looking for, and are you the type of leader that is willing to have empathy? Are you willing to have accountability, right? Because you need to have like a little bit of both. And can you manage people essentially? So I think that that's going to be one of those other things. And then I'll give you a fifth one, funding, right? And revenue. Like if you don't make money, you don't survive. So you gotta start to find a way to make money. And I built LGV with a lot of philanthropy in my mind. So it's always hard to kind of like have a good balance between profit and philanthropy, but there is a way. And I would say, make sure you're understanding that financial structure as much as possible. Make sure you know how to read your financial statements. Do not rely on a CPA to just send you stuff. No, if you don't know how to read it yourself, then you're doing yourself a disservice because you really don't understand the inner workings of your business. And it's really hard. I call it the language of finance. It's really hard to be able to operate a business without knowing the language of finance, because that if you know the language of finance, then you know where to pivot. You know that I need to stop spending less money on marketing. You know that I need to stop spending money on overhead, or vice versa.
So hey, ladies and gentlemen, has this been amazing? Let's show Lisette some love in the chat. Just absolutely, always an honor to be in your presence. I hashtag one to watch. As we, wind down, and we've got about 10. We can probably go over a little bit because I did talk for 5 minutes. Um, you know, um, Tell me, how did you stay focused and not let, I did a post that basically said, distraction is the enemy of progress.
I love that question, Gi. You can't think with a cluttered mind. It's that simple. It's really hard. And essentially, right now we have a lot of noise. Our phones are going off. Your Instagram, your LinkedIn, your emails, and it's just so much noise. And we're super overstimulated, right, as human beings. And so, for me, and I mean, I know this works, so I'm gonna say, please, everybody, just go and do it. Meditation and grounding yourself, and doing yoga and just going within, is really going to help you through those times, because one of the things that I've had to learn, because I'm such a go-getter and I just want to do, is learning when to do nothing. Like, sometimes you just got to do nothing, because sometimes you just got to let things progress, and sometimes it's just not the right time. Gabriel is in the call, so he can tell you, 4 months ago, we couldn't even bond an $800,000 job. Today, we bonded around $2.6 million worth of bond. So sometimes it's just not the right time, or you're not ready, or it's not meant to be. So I'm a big spiritual universe person. So I think that, you really, I don't know, I believe that there's something just higher out there. So I try to just stay grounded, and try to stay authentic, and you got to have a compass, which, going back to why, you got to know which direction you're going. And if you have, if you know your compass, if you know what your truth is and what's authentic to you, then nothing's gonna really steer you from that, right? Nobody can really call me right now and stir me up in any kind of way, because I know where I'm going. I know who our client is. I know who are, I know this stuff. So essentially, I can cut through all the noise very, very fast, because I know my why.
Awesome. So you have the meditation, you have the quiet moments. Do you have any benchmarks out there, and how do you balance benchmarks and comparison?
Benchmarks, like KPIs type benchmarks, or
Benchmarks as in people or
okay.
companies that you say, yeah, I want to be like that when I grow up. Um, but I don't get so consumed on
Yes,
their thing that I lose my thing, right? And knowing that I may want to get there, but
correct.
yeah,
If I would have went around asking people if I should start a construction company, I'm pretty sure 90% of them would have told me no,
no.
which is why I didn't do it, because I just knew I wanted to do it. Um, but you have to understand that it's good to have aspiration, and I hope that the reason why I'm speaking here, and the reason why I'm even sharing my story, is so that I can even give some light, or some, hopefully, people, because you do need that drive, right? It's especially as a sole owner, it's like you do need something to kind of keep you going, and keep you motivated and determined to continue to go, because it's not easy, by any means. But you really need to you know understand, um you know how does that all work together, and the fact that your journey is not going to be the same as the other person's journey. I guarantee you right now, everyone that's in the call, you could do everything that I've done to the T. I can show you my business plan. And by the way, Michelle, I share, we have strategic plan that I share with everyone. I'll share my business plan. I'll share everything, because at the end of the day, if you do everything exactly the same, it's not going to be the same outcome, right? You would have had to look at our relationship, GI. You would have had to, you would have had to apply to the pitch competition. You would have had to been in that program at that time. So there's so
Yep.
many variables. So like, remove all that noise. Understand that your path is your path, and a lot of those personal experiences that you have, um, don't not reinvent the wheel. That's one thing I would say. Do not, look at some of those, experiences from your childhood, experiences from your career, and see how you can elevate those and use them into where you're trying to go. Because that's essentially what I did, and that's essentially what helped me be successful. But to what you said, is good to have role models. It's good to have idols and people that we aspire to be, and at the same time understand that your life is your life, and what works for you needs to work for you, and nobody else.
True that. I think, I know, that first of all, I believe, that you will become a large business on year 10, for several reasons. Not only your drive, but your vision, your focus, the fact that you don't have a lack mentality, right? And part of that meditation and that being quiet and not being upset that 6 months ago you couldn't get that level of bonding, but look at now, the timing, right? And here's what I believe: many times, God has to put all the right people, the right pieces in place for that to be approved. And when we're busy trying to rush it, we're busy trying to force it, um, that really works against us more than it does for us. And I know as a veteran, we see a challenge, we think, just like this brick wall behind me, I'm going through it. That doesn't mean I'm supposed to stop. I'm supposed to go through it. I'm supposed to go over it. Well, no, maybe you're not. Maybe in about 6 months, somebody's going to bring a hammer or a or demolish the wall for you so you can just walk through the rubble. And the other thing that bothers me about you know veteran women, minority, all business owners is I call it tailgating, right? And I'm just going to talk a little bit, because tailgating is when Lisette is talking to a client. I'm standing there and I hear Lisette give her pitch, talk about how amazing she is, talk about her projects, and I'm sitting there. My energy is just like, it's like double dutch on jump rope. I just can't wait to get in. How can I get in and say what I do? What about just letting Lisette have that moment, and maybe that person she's talking about is not your client? It's not the person for you. And just wait for the opportune time when it is your time to pitch, or wait for Lisette to say, hey, do you know GI? GI has a business doing X, Y, and Z. I would love for you to meet her. She's amazing. We've done some previous projects together. But I see a lot of tailgating.
Yeah.
And as we go out in these industry events, I wish people would realize you don't need to meet everybody. Everybody there is not your client. And I think that's something you do well. You scope out, because we've talked before. You scope out, who am I going to talk to? Who am I there to meet, right? And you're very focused. You're very focused on who you should talk to and who you should engage with. And so, I just want to find out, what's your strategy. I went on my little soapbox, but what's your strategy? Because, all these industry events, even though, COVID is still looming, people are much more comfortable. They're getting out, they're going to events. And I perceive, probably, hopefully we'll get through the, government shutdown. But if not, hopefully by January, people will really, after the holidays, people will really be picking up with industry events. Um, what are your thoughts? One of my favorite events, I do have to give a pitch for veterans in business, VIB Network. They are amazing. To me, one of the best veteran business conferences in the country. So if we could just use that, you've been there, Lisette. Let's just talk about if you were going to that event, which is October, no, not October, November 13th and 14th,
In
12th,
Orlando, right? Is that one
no,
in the one in Orlando?
no, not in Orlando. This is the one in San Diego.
Oh, BIV. Sorry, I was thinking about VA.
VIB, in San Diego. What is your strategy for people, the VA, the Department of Veteran Affairs National Veteran Small Business Conference is the week before, 7 through 9 November. So we're going to have two conferences back to back, two amazing veteran conferences back to back. What is your strategy when you go there? The VA conference will probably have anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 people, depending on how things are going. And the other one is a little bit more smaller, intimate. We'll have probably, 7 to 900 people there. What is your strategy? What do you do when you are engaging uh, at these industry events and help people out? Because a lot of people just go there, they get cards, nothing happens. They're trying to talk to everybody, even people who don't have they have a need for their particular capability.
Professional networkers.
Yeah.
Look, time is a non-renewable resource, right? And so we have to really be mindful of where we spend our time and who we spend it with. You have to do. You can't just show up to a conference and think like, okay, let me just show up, right? You have to do the research. Gabriel put in there market research. Yeah, you have to. If you're going to a conference, find out which agencies are going to be there. Look at their forecast list. Be prepared. One of the things that I do when I do these matchmaker events is like I'm very and Gabriel does them with me as well. It's like we set them up where we know who that person is, whether it's their agency or it's a large prime. We know their mission. We understand what their needs are, and so when we come to the table, we're not just asking, because again, time is a non-renewable resource. So if you get there and you're asking elementary questions that don't really help, and this stuff is online, you just wasted a whole day, a whole sit down. You basically wasted an opportunity. And so what we do is that we're very intentional about where do we go. And I think that the more we do this, the tighter we get, right? Because we know our client a lot more. And so know who's there. And then the other thing I would say with conferences, it's not just the clients, it's also the attendees. Who can you partner with? Sometimes your space is not for you to be the prime. Sometimes it's better for you to be the sub, depending on what your goods and services is. So you might, I've actually met subs at these conferences that we've given them contracts. And so there is a lot of opportunity, but you have to prepare yourself ahead of time, and know who's there. All that stuff is online. Set up those matchmaker events early on, and and also be afraid to like get there and nothing happens, because I've been to so many that really nothing has matured to anything, but there is great sessions, and I always, some shape or form, I try to look at the good in everything. So I would say, still participate, show up. Half of the battle sometimes is showing up. And so, show up, talk to people, be vulnerable, ask for help. That's one of the things that I've not, as I progress, I get better at it, but I didn't want to ask for help, right? I wanted to just figure it out on my own and just do it all on my own. Where there's a lot of free resources, and there's a lot of people that are willing to help, especially in the veteran community. It's so amazing. I just got accepted to the CEO circle for Bunker Labs, and it's amazing because you get into a session, everybody is making similar revenues as you, so you're all in the same boat. But everybody, even though everybody's successful, everybody's vulnerable. Everybody's like, how can I help? How can I share best practices? Because it doesn't matter what industry you're in. you're always, if you run a business, you're going to have marketing needs, you're going to have operational needs, you're going to have finance needs. It's just you need those components of the business. You can't, it's like building up a foundation. You can't just, leave one area out and expect to be able to build it. You can't do that. You gotta make sure it's all covered.
So as we wind down, probably finish up in the next 10 minutes or so. I want to ask you a couple of questions. One, do you have a favorite number?
I do. Maybe 7 came up to my head, but I do like, I like the threes and numbers like that, like 9.
Great.
Lucky 7.
Why? Is there any specific meaning behind the number?
The lucky 7, I think, is more of that. 7 is the lucky number.
Yeah, I love that number too.
No real funny reason, just I like it.
What's your favorite word?
My favorite word. Well, I go through phases. But I guess one of my employees pointed it out yesterday. He said that my new favorite word is irrelevant. And that's because I am just, again, there's so much noise, and especially in construction, there's so much information going back and forth. And I think sometimes people just want to talk. And it's like, listen, like I only have limited time. So I want to say that, that's important.
And I think that's important for people, who are in the CEO seat, and those who working for leaders, period. And people say I get to the point really quick. I'm blunt, and it probably has to do with my senior military background. You're only going to get so much time from the general, so you better give them all the things they need to know so that you can get it. But it's very similar for a CEO. Everybody, you don't need to know everything. And I want to then translate that over to a client. There are things that are important about the client. And then there are things that are not important. The things, I think, as you were talking about going to the events, the things you want to know is, what are the things that cause them pain? What is the source of that pain? And then how can you be the solution or the medicine for that pain? Is it a law? Is it an IG report? Is it, some condition that's going to end up on the front page of the newspaper? Is it some new appropriation? All of those things drive whether or not something's relevant to the client. And if it's relevant to the client, then it probably should be relevant to you.
You make such a great point on that, because a lot of people, they listen to just hear, right? Not to really understand. And a lot of times, especially as entrepreneurs, we get this business plan together and we have this great idea, and it's like the best thing since sliced bread. And then you just want to tell the client, oh, and you're so excited. This is what I do. And it's like the client is not buying that. But you spend all this time explaining something that had nothing to do with what they wanted to do. So to your point, one of the first things that I do is, what is it? Can I meet their needs? And, right now we have a contracting officer who's moving to the West Coast. And I would love to go do work at the West Coast, but we are not there yet. That will hurt our business. That will overstretch us. So, it's like, listen, client, we will get there eventually. I'll call you when we're ready, but it's okay to say no to some of these situations, and really understand what is your client's needs. Because GI, I would say the hardest thing about federal contracting is forget winning the contract. I think that's the easiest thing in the grand scheme of things. It's executing some of those contracts, right? How are you going to deal with the personalities of a Corps that, has a very different interpretation of a FAR clause, and your interpretation is way different. Like, those are things that you're gonna have to deal with, and you're gonna have to essentially maneuver with. And we talk about this all the time. And federal contracting is very risky. You can go to jail if you do the wrong thing. And so essentially knowing all that stuff and really paying attention to the voice of the client and the voice of the regulation and the requirement and understanding how it all plays and who has the power to make
Ooh, girl, come on with
decisions.
it now.
Because I know, I know you as an Ozabu, there's plenty of people that come to you and it's like, give me a contract, give me a contract. It's like Ozabus have no power to spend taxpayers' dollars. None.
Hello, we're door openers. We're door openers where
Yes.
we can help you with information. We can help you if you're not getting paid. We're an advocate, but we don't have contracts.
Gatekeepers.
Exactly, gatekeepers. And you said it. You said it all. I find that people piss off potential government clients because they're so busy chasing after the wrong people that they bypass the people who really have the decision and who influence the contract because they're chasing a title. This is why it's so important to understand, like you said, the client, understand who is the decision maker. And even if somebody else is the decision maker, the other person may have more influence on driving the requirements. And so you don't want to go, oh, that's just some GS-13. That's nobody. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've heard from people that say, yeah, they bypass me. And so people are people. And I tell people the government is powered by people. There's not this big bureaucracy, that is, that's not a system. It's a system operated by people. And so it's very important to understand people, understand. If you don't know who the players are, ask, because they'll tell you.
Yeah.
They'll tell you. And I want to speak to the contractor personalities, because I do know, one of the surveys we did early on, way back almost 5 years ago, was that women veterans experience racism, sexism, ageism. That applies to all three for you. So as we begin to close out, we're celebrating you as a successful Hispanic woman, veteran business, but this is also challenges that you've overcome and still continue to deal with. Uh, One, would you like to tell us, how do you handle those things? Do you have words, code words, phrases, etc.? Um, or do you just go away and go, I'm not going to deal with that client? What do you do?
Have a good attorney. No, I'm kidding. No. How do I deal with that? Yes, we faced that. We've actually faced things from people just not approving invoices to just not approving submittals, not approving progress, just weird stuff. And unfortunately, that is it's the world, right? And one of the things that you have to understand is that you cannot control what other people do or think, and you can't not let that really dictate how you operate. And so one of the things that I really, focus on is the FAR clauses, right? And as a small business, what is it that, I have the right to, or, how is the government, because of this is not something new, right? The government has dealt with this for a long time. There's been a lot of policies that have basically built in internal controls. Talk to your OSDBU if something's going on. If you're 8A, talk to your BOS and really use these advocacy groups to help you navigate some of the situation. I've had a situation where it's a core, and the CEO is great. Well, talk to the CEO and see how you can find a way to get to the finish line. But it's something that you're gonna face. I mean, I face it, especially with the age. Like, people look at me and they're like, "What does she know? She's a child." Which is like, at first I would take it personally, but now I'm like, well, at least I'm remembered, because if I'm the only one that looks like this, then you're gonna remember my face, or you're gonna remember this one woman that was here. So just know that, like, again, exclude that noise. That's just all noise, and focus on the fact that there is space for small businesses. There is opportunity for small businesses. And in fact, the federal government has lost a lot of federal contractors. And right now they're in the middle. That's why they're putting all this money into Apex and all these resources and all these growth opportunities, because they need to build business up. Remember, small businesses are the backbone of the economic growth in America. And we're making all these jobs, we're providing all this stuff to our communities. When I win, my family wins. I was able to put my mother on salary not too long ago. Like, stuff like that is like what really drives real change. And
Yeah.
so just remember that, and again, know the rules, know the law very well, because it's really going to help you navigate through some of that noise. And I'm just hopeful that as we progress in life, more of people that think like that kind of start fading away and retiring, and we have some new fresh blood that really wants to collaborate and make things happen with businesses like mine.
So, as you were talking, I was thinking about, we talked about the negative, but there are also, I mean, just staunch advocates for underserved community vendors, people who have really, can you tell or describe what does amazing support look like when you engage with a client that's really trying to help you succeed? What are some of the things that, they've done? Some of the things, they've exposed you to, invited you to, those kinds of things.
For me, the biggest gift that I received from my clients was just the opportunity in itself, right? It was those clients that believed in us and just took that chance on us, right? Because we're a new company, and so that was kind of like the first thing. And then once you kind of get through that and you actually get the award, and the client wants to give you that contract, it's more of the process, right? How can we make this experience? Construction takes time. It's a very lengthy process. It's very multifaceted with a lot of different people. And so is this person going to be reasonable through the process? Can I have, conversations on issues that come up? How many times do you break a wall and there's asbestos somewhere? Or, this stuff happens. And is that client, do they understand that? And I think that, essentially, as at the beginning, and you're gonna have to just take whatever clients, and you gotta make revenue. Again, you gotta survive. But as you start graduating from that, start aligning yourselves with your clients. So we choose our clients based on their mission. We don't do any high luxury type building. That's literally how we qualify most of our clients. Is that are they building something for a mission, for something that's actually going to have some purpose in the community or in the area? And so you got to build those relationships take time, and the more you build them, the more you're able to understand how that person likes things done, how what's the person's expectations, and as you go on, you'll be able to navigate that a little bit easier. And if you haven't gone through that, one of the things that's really helped me is my peers in the space. I'm not afraid to call another 8A or another SDVOSB or Eric Coffey at GovCon Giants, like, hey, I'm running through this. Can you help support me? Or have you gone through this? Or how do you navigate this? So being open, and one of the other things, do not let things linger. People think problems are just gonna go away on their own. No, resolve them from the roots. If you see an issue in your project, if you see like if you feel that something is happening, pay attention to your intuition, because a lot of times you're going to find that your intuition is correct. And yeah, just stay focused.
Awesome. Wow, wow, wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but this has been just an absolute amazing session. I love and appreciate you, my sister in service. You're hashtag one to watch. She's been featured in numerous magazines. You can Google her, USA Today, other magazines.
Veteran of the year business.
Veteran of the Year. in for SBA in Massachusetts. This is only the beginning, and I just want to say I'm so glad that you agreed to come. You're an inspiration to us all. You are a beacon of light to not only women but veterans. Um, uh, and uh, and Hispanics. Um, you are succeeding in a male-dominated, uh, arena, and I think that more women should get into tech, get into construction, because there's lots of money there in the federal government. And so, with that, I do want to thank our amazing audience who has engaged, those of who have just been sitting back listening, for joining Demystifying Government Contracting. Follow Liseth. Oh, before we forget, you're having an event in October that I do want you, and Gabriel, put the link in the chat if you would for me. But just speak to that real quick before I start closing out.
Yes. So one of the things that we have the power to as prime contractors is that we are the prime contractor. So we do have a lot of opportunities for trade partners like plumbers, mechanical, electrical, painters. We all the trades. We don't self perform any of those trades in house. And so one of the things that I really want to focus on is, again, moving more of that economic just growth opportunity into the small business world. And so Gabriel is leading this event. It's going to be 100% online. In the event, we're going to be just kind of presenting some of the opportunities we have at hand. But as you know, the government just, one day they're asking you to, build life chairs. The other day they're asking you to, restore a whole envelope. Like you never know what their needs are going to be. And so we're always needing to partner with people and good companies that want to try and look. I get it. I've been there, and I've been at one person shop for at one point. And so we LJV, we're not afraid to take risk on other companies. Obviously, we look at that risk, and it has to make sense. But if you're willing, and if your quality of work is great, and you're willing to learn, and let's say you're just in the commercial space, but you're looking into getting into federal space, I want to be that partner, and I want to be that company that kind of helps you navigate that together. Because if you make me look good, that means I look good, and that means that whole circle just keeps on, turning the wheel.
I just, oh no, awesome. I'm just putting this on the screen here. The link is there. Thanks for doing that. I just wanted to say, join with LJV to build tomorrow, today. Love that tagline. So appropriate. But I do want to say, I see great things for you. I want to give you a blessing that I give every time I do a session, and that is a bless you, bless you, bless you indeed. May God
Amen.
enlarge your territory. May He order your footsteps. May He increase your business. May He prosper you and all associated with you. May He keep you from evil, and may He keep evil from you, because we know it's ugly out there. But most of all, may God bless you. It has been my absolute delight to
Amen.
be here with you, lady. My name is Michelle Gardner-Ince, aka GI, also known as the Vet Biz Lady. Thank you for joining us. We may have to have Liseth back. Let's put her on the spot and ask her if she'll come back, because I believe that $49 million is coming your way, girl, and we want to hear the story again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks for
Anytime.
your generosity. Thanks for joining us,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
We'll see you next week, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. We went a little late because there was so much stuff to cover, and she's such an amazing lady. Well worth it. I hope that you enjoyed it, but we will see you next week. Thanks, and God bless.